Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to Live at the Waterhole on this gorgeous Saturday afternoon. We're starting at Old Donyo in Kenya. Just a reminder that this is a live and interactive experience. You can watch us on our app or our website. The details will appear on the screen below. So today I want to have a theme, and the theme is about you, the viewer. I want to know why you watch the show, and do you watch it to unwind or relax? Maybe you have it on as background noise in your living room while you're cooking. Do you watch to learn more about nature? Are you interested in becoming a guide yourself? Please share your comments so that we can have a discussion. So see, we have some activity here at this beautiful waterhole at Old Donyo. We have some oxpeckers there on the back of the zebra. They have a mutualism, a mutual symbiosis, so meaning that they both benefit from the interaction between the two species. So the bird obviously gets a meal from feeding on the ticks, and the zebra gets to be groomed or cleaned and gets rid of those pesky parasites. Looks like that zebra didn't want to be in the shot over there, in the camera shot. A bit shy, that zebra there. It's nice of this elephant to allow the zebra to drink at this hole. There's obviously a hierarchy at the waterhole, and sometimes the elephants don't allow the zebra to drink there, especially in times where it's very dry and there's not much of the resource available. You can see they're very wary of the elephant. They're practicing caution when they're stepping towards the waterhole because they know who's boss over here. Okay, we have a comment from Mercedes Bean. They say, "Greetings, Wild Earth crew and chatters. Happy Saturday." Thank you, Mercedes Bean. I like the name. It's a very cool name. And it is a very happy Saturday, and we're looking forward to watching the Springboks play later, the South African national rugby team. They'll be playing here in Cape Town, where I'm presenting to you from now. It's a bit cold and wet over here, but obviously much nicer weather there in Old Donyo Lodge. We have another comment here. So from Khopotso, saying, "Afternoon, regarding today's theme, I watch the show to connect with nature. I love animals." So thank you, Khopotso. That's a wonderful reason to watch the show. And I was actually, earlier, I was just watching the different cameras, and for me, it's actually so relaxing watching nature. I don't know if you, the viewers, find that it's also just very relaxing, and definitely you feel a connection with nature, some sort of primal connection, which we can't fully understand or explain, but there's definitely something special about just viewing nature, just sitting, listening to nature, and just absorbing everything. So we have another comment here from K9 Girl. They say, "Hi everyone and all in FC, looking forward to relaxing with some great sightings today." I'm sure we will have great sightings with the 30 odd cameras that are scattered throughout Africa, all the amazing different locations, the natural environments. So remember to keep those comments coming through regarding why you watch the show. I'd love to find out more about you, the viewers. So we have quite a bit of activity happening now. It's obviously the afternoon, and over here, especially in Kenya, being closer to the equator, I could imagine it gets very hot at this time of day, and they would definitely need a drink of water, quench their thirst. Okay, we have another comment here from Solomon. They say, "I enjoy watching Wild Earth because I get to learn a lot about animals, and I'm planning to go to Kruger National Park in December." Yeah, that's a lovely reason, Solomon, and I'm super excited for you. The Kruger is an absolutely incredible place, and just with spectacular wildlife viewing. It's very seldom that one goes there and you don't see much, but there's just incredible sightings. And if you go on YouTube and you look at, if you type in latest sightings Kruger, then also lots of incredible things pop up of the sightings. And I think it's almost at like a weekly, or almost a daily rate that they publish new footage. So there's another comment from Nolene. Nolene says, "Love this channel, very relaxing and calming." I agree with you, Nolene. It's besides the informative parts, it's also just relaxing. You can even turn the volume down and just watch all the sightings at the waterhole, just seeing nature at its finest, just taking it all in and seeing nature as it's intended to be. So there's another comment here from Mr. H, UAE 87. They say, "Hi, Johan. Happy weekend. I watched the show and Africam. It's great learning about animals." So I'm glad you follow Africam as well. So when the show isn't on, then you can still view the animals on Africam. So you just type in Africam on one of your web browsing platforms, and then you can see them all streamed live. It's such a privilege to be able to see all these different, it's almost like you're being teleported to these different locations throughout Africa. And imagine 20 years ago, or even 15 years ago, you wouldn't imagine something as amazing as this. Just the wildlife being brought live to your home. You can just sit on your couch and at home or at your desk and just watch the wildlife in its most natural form at home. So Julian Thomas commented, "Hi everyone, I watch live at the waterhole, hoping to see new birds, but I enjoy it all anyway. Fond memories of Southern Africa, visits a long time ago." So that's very, very cool, Julian. I'm a very fond birder, a very keen birder, shall I say, myself. And I think it's just amazing just going to different places to see new birds. There's always a new bird to be found and seen. I don't think anyone can say that they've seen every single bird species in their sort of, well, in the world, let's say. So, especially Southern Africa, there's over 900 bird species just in Southern Africa. And I don't think you could ever get tired of ticking birds off your list. I think it's such a privilege that we live in Southern Africa, or that I live in Southern Africa, and it's never lost on me what a privilege and it is to live here. And one just needs to go to a nature reserve. There's so many of them in Southern Africa. You're so spoiled for choice, and you can just go. And I mean, birds are something that you don't have to search incredibly hard to find. And so definitely birding would be a good reason to watch this show. I'm also learning as we go along. I've also seen new birds on the show, and yeah, some birds which I've never been to East Africa, so seeing birds, new species all the time in Kenya. Okay, now it looks like we're at Tau Game Lodge on Madikwe Game Reserve. We've got a bit of activity here, a beautiful shot in the foreground of a crocodile basking in the sun, and of course some elephants maximizing on the water resource in this midday heat. As I'm sure in the northwest where Madikwe is located, it's very hot at the moment. And they're also obviously using this opportunity to bathe in the water, to also get a nice layer of mud on their skin to protect their skin against the harmful UV radiation of the sun.
What does it take to handle the wild? Balance. Determination. Focus.
Yaku!
And gear that can take a beating so you don't have to.
Would you like to know the difference between a male and a female wildebeest? You can ask me questions like this in real time. Our safaris are live and interactive here in the heart of Africa. Join me on Safari Live and connect with nature.
Welcome to Safari Spotlight. We'll be
And you pretend like you're a salesman, eh?
Got no idea what's going on in this reserve.
Expecting the unexpected.
Are we stuck down there?
What am I trying to do?
So we have another giant of Mabula.
That was incredible.
This is unbelievable.
It's going to be a spectacular afternoon.
yeah, so that's also, it's a very good point that, you know, you've been to all these places in Africa, and now you don't have to go and make the missions to see these beautiful animals. You can just enjoy them live from your house, from your home, and that's very, very cool. Thank you for sharing that, Hoggy. Helene says it's so real and grounding to be able to see live animals in their own time and lives. It is very grounding and real, because often, I'm sure, as many of the viewers also might have watched programs on TV, and obviously those are very curated versions of the wildlife, and you see just the highlight reel, just the best bits of nature. And so being able to see this live, seeing them, you know, when they're just doing their casual day-to-day things, and also seeing them when they're doing more exciting things, it's definitely something special, and definitely very grounding. I don't know how to explain it, but it definitely does ground one. Just enjoying nature. Just even if you're staring at a mountain, if you just sit and stare at a mountain for 5 minutes, it definitely brings down your blood pressure, and you just become a lot more aware of how incredible this life is, and that we are just a part of incredibly vast ecosystem and planet. Okay, so I think we're going to go to our next camera. Let this crocodile do its thing here. Very slow and deliberate movements. So now we're at Meno Akwena in Botswana on the Boteti River. Lots of activity going on here as well. Some zebra using the water to cool down, and of course lots of elephants. So I'm going to continue with the comments. Mr. Elemental says, I enjoy learning from the presenters on Live at the Waterhole, and I like how the directors find where the action is for us. I think, yeah, it's definitely, you cannot take for granted how hard the directors and the team at Wild Earth works behind the scenes to produce this wonderful show for us. They're definitely working hard behind the scenes, and a lot of it doesn't get enough praise and recognition. So yeah, from all at the, or to all at the Wild Earth team, shall I say, we're very grateful for this experience. So Penelope Kenyon, they say, a Durbanite, grew up in a wildlife family, so nearly every school holiday was away in the bush, especially Hluhluwe Mfolozi. I love everything about the bush and the beach. So I can imagine being from Durban, you were definitely spoilt for choice when it came to the beach and the bush, because there's just, KwaZulu-Natal is blessed with all sorts of wonderful nature and wildlife. And yeah, there's just so many reserves to choose from in northern KZN. And yeah, just the beaches are probably some of the finest in the world. I haven't visited myself in a while, so I don't know what the current state of the beaches are, but I just remember the beaches always having some of the nicest waves to surf, and obviously the water is nice and warm to swim in. We have a comment here from Talon. They say, "Hi Johan, I watched to see the big five up close from the safety behind my screen." That's a very sharp response. I think, yeah, it's not often that you get to see them this close and be in a comfortable or non-life-threatening position. So, yeah, with this technology, how these cameras are able to zoom into the animals and get real close and to see all the details is quite something. And Jocelyn Boonzeyer says, "Thank you, Wild Earth. My ultimate happy place takes me away from the hustle and bustle of city life." Absolutely. Yeah, definitely just getting out in nature, even just viewing nature, as I said earlier, just from the comfort of your home. It just has this just soothing effect on your brain. And it definitely shows that we are built for nature and not necessarily the hustle and bustle of the city and all the noise pollution. It's quite strange that yeah, all these artificial noises they really cause a lot of stress in one, and the noises in nature are just a lot more soothing to the brain, just more. I lack a good sort of adjective. Maybe you can help me out with one in the comments, but definitely our brains are programmed to hear more natural sounds.
Let's go and take a look. See you out there.
The Wild Earth Impact Foundation is a non-profit that uses the power of wildlife storytelling as a force for good. We create sustainable development projects that showcase conservation stories, empower people, and inspire environmental action. As a registered South African PBO, you can make a tax-deductible donation to the Wild Earth Impact Foundation. To find out more, visit our website.
chidzana na tsima ra ntumbuluko dlovukazi ya xitsundzuxo hosi ya rhumela.
How cool is this?
Can see these ellies have been maximizing, capitalizing on the mud and that in the waterhole. You can see there's like a thin layer of caked mud on their sides, on their flanks. So peaceful just to appreciate the stillness of the bush. No, I'm not so convinced that that is a hippo. Maybe I'm wrong. Nope, that is a hippo with some mud on its back, lying very, very still. Incredibly still. That's very, very odd. Normally they're quite animated, especially when they're bathing during the daytime. Because of course hippos at nighttime they leave the water holes or the rivers in order to go and graze, because they're bulk grazers, so they eat lots of grass. And they're not very fussy about which grass they eat, and they can travel distances of up to 10 kilometers to go and graze at nighttime, and then they'll be back at dawn, or just before dawn, before the sun comes up. So when you see a hippo outside the water, you should be sure not to get between it and the water, because they are very comfortable in the water, and so they feel very vulnerable when they're outside of it. And then when you are standing in between it and the water, it sees you as a threat, that you're threatening its escape route. So if you are ever unlucky to be caught between a hippo and the water, the best thing would be get out of the way. And if you see a hippo and you're not in between it and the water, probably your best bet would just be to stand still. So Khopotso is asking which biospheres are found in South Africa. So South Africa is made up of a few different biomes, and so the savanna being one of them, where we find most of the big five, where the savanna makes up part of the Lowveld and Mpumalanga, and so Limpopo and Mpumalanga, and parts of KwaZulu-Natal. And then you have grassland biomes, which would be most of the Free State and parts of Gauteng and parts of Mpumalanga. And then you have the Fynbos biome, where I'm located. So that's more fynbos, which is a very special, unique vegetation, which you find only sort of in the Western Cape, really. And then you have, let me think, I haven't actually covered biomes in quite a while, but maybe you can help me out with some of the other biomes that are here. If you can comment there for me what other biomes we have. Okay, so I think we'll go to camel thorn as there's a bit of a background noise here at Serondela. So camel thorn in central Botswana. What on earth is happening with this elephant here? Almost looks like they're stuck in the mud, but maybe they're just getting some nice fresh water from its source. Maybe there's water trickling out from under that soil over there. So elephants can be incredibly fussy when it comes to drinking water. They generally prefer very fresh water, and they don't like their water to be too muddy or full of sediment. And so they're actually known to cause a bit of problems in some nature reserves where they pull out pipes in order to get the fresh water, even though there would be enough water at a lot of the waterholes, but they're just a bit fussy when it comes to that. So please do remember to keep your comments rolling in. I would like this to still be an interactive experience. You can see some elephant dung there, just in front of that elephant. So elephant dung is also incredibly valuable in Africa, or where it's found. You can even make paper from elephant dung. If you've ever visited the Kruger National Park, you might see that they actually sell notebooks and that are made from elephant dung. And also elephant dung can be burnt in a dry form when it's dried out, and sometimes people inhale that dung if they have some sort of chest problem or some sort of... Sometimes I've seen that some people would even use the dung to prevent nosebleeds or for headaches and that sort of thing. Because of course elephants eat many different plants, and they use different parts of the plants, and so there's lots of medicinal uses in the plants which are found in the bush, and so all of that gets released or it's contained within the dung, and so that undigested material remains, or partially digested material remains in the dung. Okay, let's go to our next spot, our next waterhole. So Tower Game Lodge, Madikwe Game Reserve. So we're back in the northwest province of South Africa, where you also find savanna, as you can see there in the background. It's grasslands, and then there's some scattered trees and bushes throughout, which is very characteristic of the savanna biome. And so elephants actually play a very important role in maintaining this balance between trees and grasses. They ensure that the trees are not too dense, so they will make sure that they thin the vegetation and the trees, so that there's enough space for all the animals to roam between the trees. And we've got a beautiful waterbuck over there, also capitalizing on this waterhole. A waterbuck, of course, being very water dependent, hence the name. And you'll generally find them, you won't find them much further than 5 kilometers from a waterhole or a river. It's very unusual or unlikely that you'll see a waterbuck further than 5 kilometers away from a waterhole. So of course you can see these are the females that are part of this waterbuck's harem. So you have a dominant male that has a herd of females that he looks after. And so you can see that the females don't have horns, where the males do. And the males use those horns to aggressively defend the limited water available in many of these savanna biomes or landscapes. You can also see some blue wildebeest or brindled gnu in the background there, bobbing their heads as they walk, very agreeable. Of course, some cute elephants in the foreground. See something, maybe the matriarch has said, it's time for us to go. We still need to, we've got to get the rugby. The game starts at 5. So we need to finish up drinking over here so we can go to the next pub and perhaps enjoy another beverage at the next pub. Please do remember to comment or to send through questions on our platforms so we can make this a bit more interactive. It seems those zebra are waiting there in the background, waiting for these ellies to finish up. So it actually looks like the elephants, they're done drinking now, and now they're going to have a bit of a mud bath before they carry on grazing or browsing, continue eating, finding food for the day. I wonder what that zebra over there in the background is up to. That one also looks like it's listening to some rock music, bobbing its head. Yeah. So generally zebra, they would bob their heads like that to release these larvae, these fly larvae, and then that gets the flies lay their larvae in the nasal passages, their nostrils, and so they bob their heads around like that to loosen that larvae or those eggs in the nasal passages. Okay, so we have a comment, a question from Wildlife Lady. Wildlife Lady is asking, beautiful scene here at Tau, all the animals strolling by. Yes, yeah, so they do seem to be very mobile, very active at this particular waterhole. They, it seems like it's a bit chaotic, like there's a bit of restlessness at this waterhole. There's like people moving around, animals moving around frantically. So maybe they might have been spooked a bit earlier and they're just feeling a little bit restless. So Penelope Kenyon says, Johan, I hope you have all your fingers and toes crossed for the Springboks. I definitely do. It's going to be a very close game, I'm sure, between South Africa and Australia. And of course, we want our team to do us proud. And so there's a lot of pressure on them after losing last weekend. And I'm sure they'll have enough in the tank to see us through. So I'm very much looking forward to that later. Maybe have a braai and then before watching the game, or a barbecue. So Helga says, these tower elephants really love their mud spa. They absolutely do. My partner is actually away today at a spa, so but I don't think she's rolling around in the mud. I think it's a lot more sophisticated than that.
This is an unbelievable afternoon.
Hyenas love bathing.
Are you ready for the adventure of a lifetime? Wild Earth Travel's newsletter is your passport to a magical journey. Explore exclusive travel options featuring special offers at stunning Wild Earth locations and all hosted by your favorite presenters. Don't miss out. Head over to our website and subscribe to the Wild Earth Travel newsletter today and stay in the know on all our unforgettable adventures. Wild Earth Travel, where Africa comes alive.
Biome, which I haven't mentioned. We also in South Africa, or Southern Africa, you get deserts, and then you also get forests. You get indigenous forests, which we mostly find in South Africa. So we have indigenous forests in the Eastern Cape, and then we also have in parts of Limpopo. There's a stunning place in Limpopo, just north of Hoedspruit, called the Volkberg, and there's just some stunning indigenous forest there. And if you've never been there, I can highly recommend it. It's an absolute, if you want to be immersed in nature and not see many people for miles and miles, then I would highly recommend going to that region. Okay, let's go to Old Donyo, seeing as there's not too much happening this side at Tower Game Lodge. Okay, sure. It seems every time you're just away from Old Donyo Lodge for a few minutes, there's just so much that has changed. It's just incredible, the diversity that you find here in East Africa as well. So we have some giraffe, of course, in the picture, very easily recognizable, identifiable. This elephant seems like the same one that we saw earlier, which hasn't moved, conserving its energy most probably. And then we have some eland over here, also enjoying a drink. And it looks like we have an oryx at the back there, probably a fringe-eared oryx, which you find mostly in East Africa. And then you can see that giraffe over there ruminating, just chewing the cud, as we say, just eating the grass slowly, making sure they grind it to a very fine bolus, or they just grind it into a very fine sort of form, and then they swallow it, and then they let the grass ferment a little bit in their rumen, which is chambered. Their stomach contains 4 chambers, and so that first chamber, basically, it partially digests the grass or the leaves or whatever plant material it's eating, and then they regurgitate it. So it's actually quite interesting seeing when you look at giraffe, and if you just look at their necks for long enough, you'll see like it looks like a tennis ball that's being brought up from their bodies to their heads. It's just actually it's like a tennis ball moving in slow motion. So Recycle Teenager UK is asking, how long did it take you to become a naturalist and gain so much knowledge? So thanks for the question, Recycle Teenager. I actually studied for a while before I went into guiding. I studied environmental science for my undergraduate degree, and then I went on to do a postgraduate and honors degree in wildlife management, a BSc in wildlife management. And then I guided for some time, and then I was working with volunteers, and then I was working in reserve management. So I've seen many different sides of conservation and the natural world, and I'm constantly learning, and I'm very, very passionate about it. I think nature is just so special, and the more we can expose people to it, the more we can educate people about it, the better. So I don't know if I'm going to say this name correctly, but Mindy Tillapaw says, love these sightings with multiple species. So that it is very, very cool to see these many different species at these waterholes. And so basically what's quite interesting is each of these species, they'll occupy a particular niche in their environment. So although the elephant and the giraffe, they're both herbivores, they both eat plants, but the giraffe feeds on particular, shall I say, vegetation, or they feed mostly on leaves and flowers and pods and that from trees. And then elephants, they're not only browsers, but they feed on grasses and they feed on the roots of trees, on the bark of trees. So they tolerate one another because they're not in direct competition. So ecology, if you have two species that occupy the exact same niche, that eat the exact same thing, only one of them will survive or come out on top, and then the other one will either be pushed out of an area or go extinct because they cannot both occupy the exact same niche in the same space and the same time. So we call that resource partitioning, so where animals occupy different niches in nature. And so it would be when you have two species with the exact same niche or that require the same resources, that would be called, and where the one survives and the one doesn't, that is called competitive exclusion. And so you see sometimes with jackal and caracal, because their niches are so similar, where you'll find jackal, you won't find caracal in those areas. So, or they live in different parts of the habitat.
For years, we've shared virtual wildlife. Now, let's experience it for real. I'm Lauren Arthur, and I'd love to show you my amazing home here in the Greater Kruger of South Africa. This 5-night journey is an exclusive connection to my piece of untamed Africa. I live here in these gorgeous landscapes surrounded by epic wildlife. The wild is calling, so come and join me.
My full name is Cedric Leslie Dold. I grew up mostly in the Lowveld. I grew up here pretty much on the southern side of Kruger National Park, a place called Marloth Park, for most of my years. Something surprising about myself, I did play drums in a band for many years. Best sighting I presented, we found Columba and the 2 cubs, and the cubs are just way big.
Step into the heart of Africa from the comfort of your home.
Female leopard tracks over here.
Join our expert guides for a live 3-hour safari where every moment is real, unscripted, and unforgettable. Ask questions.
Animals rely on their senses.
Share your thoughts and be part of the experience as we explore together. Safari Live.
Unbelievable how quickly things change at these water holes. 1 minute you have 4 or 5 different species drinking at the same time, and now there's just 2 species. Yeah, that incredibly long tongue of the giraffe. And so the tongue is actually not pink as you'd imagine most tongues to look, but it's kind of like a blackish sort of, or like a dark purple color, and it is believed that it's this color because their tongues are often exposed to the UV rays of the sun, and because much of their time is spent feeding, and their tongues are sticking out so that they can use those prehensile tongues, which basically means that they can maneuver it and like wrap it around branches. And so they use those tongues in order to strip the acacias or whichever tree, strip the branches of their leaves. And so it's believed that it kind of acts like a sort of that pigment, that darker pigment acts to protect the tongue, and so that it doesn't get as damaged, like a sort of a UV protection. So I have a question from Spas Ian Kov. How do elephants benefit from giraffes and giraffes from elephants? So there's not necessarily a mutualistic relationship. There's not like a win-win relationship between giraffe and elephants necessarily. Like they don't always live in close association to one another, because that would be the definition of a symbiosis, where you have 2 different species, completely different species, which they share the same space, and the one either benefits, or the one benefits, will always benefit in this relationship, and the one is either negatively affected or positively affected, or benefits, or they're not affected at all. So I would imagine with elephants being a lot stronger and able to push trees over, they would be able to, when they push trees over, maybe they allow for better access to that. Once the tree is on the ground, then the giraffe can maybe eat those leaves that it couldn't get access to when the tree was upright. I hope that answers your question, Spas. So you can imagine there would be sort of different ways in which they could maybe benefit one another. Elephants also very good at making water holes bigger. You know, when they use the mud to cake themselves, to create that sunscreen, that layer of mud to protect them against the sun. So they basically removing a lot of the mud and sediment from a water hole. And so in doing that, they make the drinking water, they make a bigger sort of water hole. And so I imagine there would be more capacity in that water hole for more water to occur in there. So then there would be more water for the giraffe to drink, maybe. So maybe think of some other ways in which they could help one another. But it would seem that it's mostly the elephant. They do a lot of work which benefits many other species. Incredibly important in the savanna biome, elephants, even in desert biomes. also very good at dispersing seeds, at when they eat the fruit. They're very important at dispersing marula fruit, which are a very indispensable, invaluable resource in the low-fault region in South Africa. Many people use the marula fruits to make jams and to make marula beer, or there's even that famous drink called amarula, which is made from the marula fruit, or it used to be made from the marula fruit. I don't know. I think nowadays they just use the flavor and not actually the fruit. Dark Main Lover says, thank you, Johan, for sharing your background on your education. I must say, a very impressive resume. Thank you very much, Dark Main Lover. Yeah, I must say, I never imagined that I would be studying, that I would have studied for so long, but I just always knew that I wanted to work in the environment, work with animals, and so I did what I had to in order to work closely with animals and to learn as much about them as possible. So when I was younger, I actually initially wanted to be a wildlife veterinarian because I thought they had an incredible lifestyle. They're able to dart animals from helicopters, and it just seems like a real action man, a wildlife veterinarian. And from the wildlife veterinarians that I've worked with, I can say that they are real action men and very pragmatic, very resourceful people. That they have to have an incredible encyclopedic knowledge, as well as be very practical and always thinking on their feet, because there's so many problems that arise with treating wild animals and with relocating them to different environments. So, but it's incredibly difficult to become a wildlife vet. You need to study for years and years, and I think it's more than a medical doctor. And if you want to specialize to be a wildlife vet, it's even longer. So you need to be very, very passionate about it, and you also need to have very good marks, because there's only one place in South Africa that I know of that offers vet courses. So there's a question here from Moonbeam Smith asking, when animals dust or mud bathe, do they suck up the dust or mud, and do they only pick it up with the end of their trunk to throw it on themselves? So I think it's a bit of both. They suck up the muddy water, and then they spit that water out onto their bodies, and so that mud ends up sort of, or the water dries up and that sediment or mud gets left behind. They also, I'd imagine they pick up chunks of the mud and they also just throw. So it's a bit of both. It's not one or the other. So Sugar Bits is asking, do other antelope like impala have a rut? And so that's a good question. So I know that wildebeest, they also have like a unique snort and that, and so they also have a harem, but it's a good question. I need to think about that a little bit. We have some beautiful eland here in the foreground, and earlier you could see there was a big male. They're much bigger with much larger necks, and they also have that interesting flap of skin which hangs from their neck, which we call a dewlap, and it is believed that dewlap helps with thermoregulation, so helping in regulating their body temperature, because they occur a lot of times in very dry environments like the Kalahari, for example. Okay, I think let's see what's happening at Sirondella. If anything has changed over there. Sirondella and Thorny Bush. And we have, of course, the elephants. Lots and lots of elephants. It seems that they spend a lot of time, especially these hours of the day, these hours that we watch live at the waterhole. They would spend the hottest hours of the day bathing and drinking water. And so elephants, they can drink an incredible amount of water. They can sometimes drink up to 200 liters of water in a day, all depending on how much moisture they get in their diet, and also what time of year it is. So if it's very hot, they would need to drink more water. Okay, let's go to Founders Lodge in the Eastern Cape and see what's happening over there. Wow, we have the mighty white rhino, white rhinoceros. Very, very beautiful creature. I see this one has got also a very impressive horn, or horns. As the white rhinoceros, they have two horns. Also, the black rhino has two horns, and with the white rhino, you'll always have the front horn being longer than the second horn, the one behind it. And with black rhino, sometimes you'll have them being two different sizes, but they can be the same size, the two horns, the front horn and the back horn. So I have a question here from Livy Etzebeth, asking, what is the weight of an eland? And so eland, they can range from about 300 kilograms to about, with the heaviest being 900 kilograms. So they can weigh almost a ton, which is unbelievable. It's just to think. And also what's even more remarkable is that they're able to jump. They can clear a 2-meter fence quite easily from a standing start. So to move that weight 2 meters high, I can imagine they have a lot of muscles in their legs. And I definitely wouldn't be able to jump as high as that, so that's very impressive that eland are able to do that. So the name white rhino is a bit confusing because they're not actually white. The black rhino and the white rhino are pretty much the same color, and the name is believed to be a sort of a corruption of the word weit, which means wide in Dutch or in Afrikaans, and so it's believed that this is a word to describe their mouths, which are wide, which helps them to graze, to get lots of grass in one bite, much like a lawnmower, which is quite wide. And so, unlike the black rhino, which has a very, it's got a more narrow mouth and it's got a hooked upper lip, which is also prehensile and which is better suited for browsing or eating from trees.
This unfolds in front of you.
Even a hyena coming into the action as well now. Oh my word! She's stalking the hyena now. Leopard, hyena, lion, all together in one shot. Oh! Whoa. This is action-packed. My full name is Cedric Leslie Dold. The best driver at Wild Earth, it is me. I believe I'm the best driver. I think so, because I've... best part of my job, I say, is just to try and look out for these animals, track them down. I love tracking animals. I love looking for, fresh tracks, and if you can find them, it's just at the moment of accomplishment. If I wasn't a presenter for Wild Earth, I would be the drummer for AC/DC.
Fine sort of granules in order to digest it, but yes, they have very large molars located on the sides of their mouth. So it's also quite interesting to see how rhinos, their ears move independently of one another. So some animals, their ears move together, where rhinos are able to move one ear in one direction and then The other ear is independent, so it's not dependent on the other ear. So basically this would be a special sort of adaptation so that they can listen out for danger coming from, much like a sort of a satellite that is trying to pick up signals from different directions, and so they can pick up danger before it gets too close. So there's a question here from Zen Bear asking, didn't a species of rhino become extinct not so long ago? So it wasn't a species of rhino per se, but there was a subspecies, the northern white rhino, which they declared extinct. So I'm not entirely sure if there's still, I think there is maybe one or two that are left, but they're obviously very highly protected and guarded because they are unfortunately persecuted for their horn, which is believed to have medicinal value in parts of Asia. But basically this northern white rhino, so there aren't enough species in order to, there are not enough individuals left in order for the population to be viable, which means like they are technically not able to continue as a species. Like if those two or one individual left dies, then basically that's game over for that subspecies. Okay, so this rhino seems to be a bit bored of what I have to say. He's curling up his tail over there as well. So let's go to Tembe Elephant Park. Let's see what's happening there. There's something exciting for us to talk about. Thank you, Mr. Rhino. Okay, so it looks like we're now in Tembe Elephant Park. We've been teleported here from the Eastern Cape to northern KwaZulu-Natal, and we've got some activity happening here. We've got a hardy-dar, one of the noisiest birds you find here in southern Africa. It's such a delight to hear in the mornings when you're trying to get a couple of extra minutes of sleep. They make sure that you don't get that last bit of shut eye. And then you also have a nyala there in the foreground. So we've got 1, 2, and then we've got the elephant, of course, and then we've got a stork. So we've got 4 species here, all coexisting at this lovely waterhole here in Maputoland, northern KwaZulu-Natal. Now we also, it looks like we have another, I can't really see very well, but there's another, it looks like is it a spoonbill maybe there in the background? That white bird in the background. Let's see what that is. Those long beaks of the hardy-dar are very specially designed to be able to dig into or to basically stab the soil, and so they are able to get worms and all sorts of invertebrates that exist in the soil.
My name is Amy, and today we're going to be doing things a little bit differently.
Wild Earth, we believe every story has the power to create change. That's why we've launched the Wild Earth Impact Foundation, a non-profit dedicated to conservation and social impact. By showcasing conservation stories, we can change lives, protect nature, and empower communities. We have partnered with Empowers Africa to accept tax-deductible donations from US donors. Your donation will help fund critical programs that support our mission. Join us and be part of the change. Join our expert guides at dawn for a live, immersive safari as the bush comes to life.
Found ourselves a chameleon, and look how he's changed color.
Every sunrise brings new discoveries.
Pound for pound, a leopard is one of the strongest cats around.
Ask questions, share your thoughts, and connect with nature, live and in real time.
Great excitement, great happiness.
Start your day with adventure.
Out here, every wild moment counts, and as a Wild Earth explorer, you won't miss a thing.
Incredible.
Watch the Wild Earth channel ad-free 24/7 and rewind if you want to catch something again. Enjoy behind-the-scenes videos, fireside chats, and early access to travel offers. The best way to stay connected and be part of the Wild Earth family.
So Robin McLean is asking, why is it called Elephant Park? And so I believe it's a way of sort of attracting people. So if it was just called Tembe Park, people might not be as interested in visiting it. I think the elephant is definitely a species which would draw many different people, because it's so beautiful and so unique. And so there's over 200 elephant that occur here at this Tembe Elephant Park. So I think that is the big draw for this particular park. Okay, so I think there's not too much going on here. Let's go over to Meno Akwena by the Botete River in Botswana. Elephants, sure. Lots of ellies today. And maybe let's keep those comments coming. But I thought I would share a joke with you. Why don't elephants use computers? Because they're afraid of the mouse. Ha ha ha. So let's see if you guys have any funny jokes, any dad jokes which you'd like to share. I'm always keen to learn a new joke. So here's another joke. Why did the lion eat the tightrope walker? He wanted a well-balanced meal. I can keep them coming all day long if there's no comments coming through. You see that elephant there on the right of the screen? It's busy drinking some of the fresh water coming out of that I can't really see exactly what it is, but maybe part of the pump which the water that is being pumped to this particular water hole. So there's a question here from Trixie Rose. So Trixie is asking, do Ellie moms ever give their babies water? So I've never seen that before, but the elephants, they do learn from quite young, or they learn as soon as they're born how to use the trunks. Actually, it's quite comical to see when they're born. Their trunks just they're not really entirely sure how to use them, so it just sort of dangles about loosely, and so it's actually quite funny to see, because they just have this apparatus on their faces, and they're just not entirely sure. They haven't got an instruction manual on how to use them, and so they just learn by trial and error, and also by being guided by the mothers how to use that trunk. Nice. So we have a nice joke here from Julian Thomas. How can you tell if elephants have been in your fridge? Footprints in the butter. Thanks for sharing, Julian. I really appreciate that. So we have another joke here from Sugar Bits. Are all ants girls? Yes, otherwise they would be called uncles. So in South Africa we pronounce A-U-N-T, or the opposite of an uncle and aunt, but I do believe that it's pronounced ant in the States. So thank you for that joke, Sugar Bits. So we have a question from Robin McLean. Does the Botete River fill in the wet season? And the answer would be yes, yeah. So a lot of the rivers that you find in the savannah, they run dry during the dry season or the winter in most places in southern Africa. And then, but of course, they still have that capacity to hold a lot of water when it does rain. And so typically when it does rain, there's kind of like flash floods. So there's these big thunderstorms, and a lot of water just comes running down simultaneously, and it's quite something to behold when these rivers just suddenly fill up after the first big rain. Okay, so let's see what's happening at Lentori Lodge in the south central Rift Valley in Kenya. See if there's anything interesting for us to talk about. Ooh, zebra. That's a really, really cool shot that we're seeing of the... It's not often that you get to see the water hole from this angle. That's Really nice to see their reflection in the water. It's lovely to see them all drinking. And you see, you'll never see them all drinking water at the same time, because one of them has to be on the lookout while the other ones enjoy drinking water stress-free without having to worry about looking over their shoulder for a predator. Because of course waterholes are the perfect places for predators to hang out, because the predators know that their prey has to at some point drink water, so they inevitably will end up at the waterhole. So they would hang around close to a waterhole waiting to ambush their prey. Okay, so Carol Kelso has also got a really good joke for us, which I really enjoyed. What did the buffaloes say to their kid at the school gate? Bye, son. So thanks for sharing that, Carol. That's a goodie. I'll definitely be sure to use that. So Danielle says, when we used to go to Botswana, we called warthogs Kalahari squad cars, the tails being the antennas when they run. That's a very clever analogy or description of warthogs. They do look very comical with their tails looking like antennas when they're running. So K9 Girl is asking, as there is water supplemented at waterholes, does this affect the natural balance? I guess one could argue that, but then if you don't have water supplemented at some of these waterholes, then you have a case of many of these species ending up dying because there's not a consistent flow of water for them to, or water resource for them to use. So unfortunately, because of human behavior, we've created these fences, these national parks, or we've limited the environments for these species, and so they're not able to go to new places to find water, to migrate to new areas, so they're restricted to these nature reserves. And unfortunately we can't just remove the fences, because then we'd have all sorts of issues with human wildlife conflict, so where the wildlife end up destroying human crops, or in the case of elephants. Okay, so we're going to we're at Nkoro Bush Lodge in the Sabi Sand now, but I'll carry on with my story now. So yes, I imagine it would somehow create an imbalance of some sort, but I think it's much better to have those water sources there than to let the animals basically die of thirst, because they need the water. Everyone needs water to survive. So it's just a way of managing these wildlife populations, because as soon as you put up a fence, you basically have to manage those species, those animals that occur within that fence. As much as we'd like to just sort of take a step back and say, okay, let nature take its course, it's not as simple as that. So I hope that answers your question, K9 Girl.
My name is Amy, and today we're going to be doing things a little bit differently.
What does it take to handle the wild? Balance. Determination. Focus.
Yaku!
And gear that can take a beating so you don't have to.
And that's it for this morning's drive.
She's just got her impala, everybody.
And we're going to be heading out and seeing what animals we can find.
And we have some baboons in the background. I think baboons are probably one of my favorite animals to view in nature, just because they're hyper intelligent and they're just so entertaining to watch. I just love how they spend a lot of time grooming each other and playing with each other, and the baby baboons are always so curious, and seeing what they get up to is just, it's very entertaining, in my opinion. See, what's that little guy doing? Busy picking off the parasites from the pelage or the fur from the baboon there. And you see that the baboons, they've got like a sort of kink in their tail. If you see when they're walking, a kind of like it's almost shaped like a rainbow, and so that's one of the distinctive features of a baboon, or chacma baboon, because monkeys, they don't have this kink, and so in South Africa, you just have, of the primates, you have baboons, you have the chacma baboon, correctly, and then you have the vervet monkey, and then you also have bush babies, but basically the tails are quite different between the baboons and the monkeys, and so this is one of the distinctive features if you want to tell a baboon and a monkey apart. And then of course, if you look at their muzzle, their nose or their mouth sort of protrudes, whereas monkeys, vervet monkeys, they've got a flat face. Such beautiful scenes here at this waterhole in Sirondella. Makes me yearn for for the bushveld. It's a very stunning area, this thorny bush located quite close to Hoedspruit, which is a wildlife hub in Limpopo of South Africa, Limpopo province. You can see they're busy grooming each other, using those incisors to, those front teeth of theirs to sort of pick the tiny parasites from the hair. Please remember to send those comments or those questions or even jokes. Keep them coming. See that baboon there is strumming. He's playing some air guitar over there. Just practicing his strumming. And now he's a bit shy. I think I've made him a bit shy. I'd like to see him practice some air drumming too. Okay, great. We've got another joke here from Zenbear. How do wildebeest keep updated? They listen to the 10 o'clock news. Thanks for sharing that, Zenbear. I'll be sure to use that one too, to irritate my partner and my friends with my dad jokes. And Rian's joke is, how many elephants can fit into a mini car? 4, 2 in front and 2 in the back. Thanks for that, Rian. I appreciate it. I'll definitely be using these jokes in the near future. So here's another one for you. One of my jokes. Why don't leopards play hide and seek? Because they're always spotted. Har har har. So it looks like this baboon is busy sifting through the leaf litter there, seeing if it can find an insect maybe. They're also known to eat scorpions. But what they do is they'd pick them up and by the tail, and they would either eat the whole body, or they would sometimes pick it up and then they would sort of pluck the sting out and then they eat it. And so baboons, much like other primates, they have, so their feet are much like their hands. So it's like they've got hands for feet. So they're able to climb trees better. So this is quite a special or unique adaptation for tree climbing. Okay, let's go to our next spot. Seems like there's not too much happening over here between the beautiful Tumbuti trees. Okay, so we're back at Old Donyo Lodge in Kenya, where there seems to be a lot less activity than there was earlier. Sure. Isn't that just amazing, seeing how these giraffe, they really stretch their bodies to the limit in order to drink, because they've got these really long legs, and so in order for them to to reach the water with their heads, they need to sort of splay their legs out, and so that they can get as close to the water as possible. It seems like a lot of the animals are leaving the waterhole now that it's starting to cool off a little bit now, perhaps. So Sugar Bits has got a joke for us. Which days are the strongest? Saturday and Sunday. The rest are weekdays. The fun play on words for you there. Thank you, Sugar Bits. Thank you for sending. See, you're very active, and I appreciate that. Penelope Kenyon, her joke is, why couldn't two Ellies go swimming? Because they only had one pair of trunks between them. I did see this joke yesterday as I was looking for some funny wildlife jokes, but I think that's definitely one of my favorites, so thank you, Penelope. You can just imagine some earphones on the zebra and see how they're just sort of like jamming to the beat, bobbing their heads to Bon Jovi's Halfway There. I obviously grabbed this one's attention with my comment. I think he's probably a big Bon Jovi fan himself. They're so elegant, these zebra. It's in the way they walk and the way they move. Okay, so let's go to Mena Okwena. Let's see what's happening there in Botswana. Okay, so we're back at the Boteti River in Botswana, where we have an elephant fully immersed in the water, just really enjoying the pool that he has over here, the nice cool water, making the most of the water during this warm afternoon. Oh. Doesn't that just look like the most fun? Oh, they're just so entertaining to watch, these elephants, when they're at the waterhole. It's nice that this one is putting on a bit of a show for us. It's the one time that they can really get those joints of theirs working, and where they can just float about and relax, because imagine there's a lot of strain on their joints when they're walking, and that heavy weight on their joints all the time. So elephants, they can weigh up to 6 tons, or generally the heavier ones weigh 6 tons, 6,000 kilograms. And so you can imagine all that strain, all that weight on their ankle joints or on their feet can be quite a weight to bear. So it's nice that they can just, when they're in the water, just relieve that pressure. Oh, look there. See that? It seems like this young elephant got a bit too close to that female's calf over there, and so.
Now this leopard that we're looking at is known by the name of Hlalamba.
The Wild Earth Impact Foundation is a non-profit that uses the power of wildlife storytelling as a force for good. We create sustainable development projects that showcase conservation stories, empower people, and inspire environmental action. As a registered South African PBO, you can make a tax-deductible donation to the Wild Earth Impact Foundation. To find out more, visit our website.
Join us on the greatest and largest game drive in the world.
Every month, something wild lands in your inbox. From rare sightings and behind-the-scenes secrets to expert stories, seasonal changes, and exclusive travel opportunities, the Wild Earth Journal is your free monthly mailer, packed with the magic of the wild straight from the field. It's fun, it's free, it's full of surprises. Sign up now on the Wild Earth website.
And when once a quill penetrates the skin of the predator, then it will be released by the porcupine. It will kind of like become detached. Dark Mane Lover says, thank you, Wild Earth, Africam, Zoomies, Johan, for a superb live at the Waterhole show. Enjoy your day. Thank you so much, Dark Mane Lover, for joining us today. And we're excited to have you view the show next time. I thoroughly enjoyed today, and I'm really getting into it, as this is only my second show, so getting into the swing of things over here at Live at the Waterhole. Canine Girl also says, a lovely Live at the Waterhole. Thanks, Johan, and all at Wild Earth. Thank you very much, Canine Girl. Again, it's been a pleasure having you on the show, and be sure to tune in again. Maybe tomorrow. See what the animals are up to on a Sunday afternoon. So Wildlife Lady also says, enjoyed today's Live at the Waterhole. Thanks Johan, FC, and all the Zoomies. So thank you, Wildlife Lady. Thank you again for joining us. It's been a pleasure having you on the show and interacting. it just makes it so much nicer when the questions come through and it's not just me talking all the time, or I guess it still would be me talking, but when you're learning something and your questions are being answered, it just is so much nicer than me just talking about things that might not interest you. See how the bigger elephants in the herd and the matriarchy are all sort of surrounding the young ones, protecting them. Creating a sort of boma around the younger ones. And they're kind of like saying to predators, if you're lucky enough, if you're brave enough to penetrate this fortress of pachyderm flesh. Okay, so thank you all for joining us on the show today.
Well, isn't this one way to start this